Well, good afternoon, everyone. For the last 3.5 years, my partners in the General Assembly and I have worked to right this state's fiscal ship and restore our focus on uplifting working families and meeting our obligations to the taxpayers of this state. We've received credit rating upgrades validating the work that's been done. I'm pleased to announce that today, leaders in both chambers have come to an agreement on yet another responsible, balanced budget. Because of our focus on fiscal balance, this budget will provide over $1.8 billion in tax relief to Illinois residents, while at the same time restoring $1 billion to our state's long-depleted rainy day fund, decreasing our net pension liability by more than $1 billion, and continuing to pay down short-term debts and unpaid bills. Illinoisans will benefit from $1 billion in tax relief at the pump, in the supermarket checkout, and in their property tax bills. On top of that, we are expanding the Earned Income Credit, sending direct checks to working families, and providing back-to-school tax relief for families and teachers. We're also doubling down on our unprecedented investments in public safety, including funding the largest state police cadet class in state history and dedicating the most ever resources to tackling the root causes of violence. And of course, just 2 weeks ago today, we committed to pay down $4.1 billion in debt, saving taxpayers hundreds of millions in annual interest payments. I want to thank Senate President Don Harmon and House Speaker Chris Welch for being true partners in hammering out a responsible, compassionate budget. Over the last few weeks, and especially over the last 48 hours, we engaged in a true give and take, which led to genuine compromise. And it honestly helped that we all came into this process committed to a fiscally responsible spending plan that improved our state's finances and helped our people in an hour of genuine need. I'm not sure how far back in Illinois' contentious budget-making history you would have to go to find a process and a product quite as good as this one. But I think it's a tremendous example of what can be accomplished with responsible democratic leadership. I hope it will provide a light of hope and help for our citizens in the months to come. And now I'd like to introduce the Senate President, Don Harmon. Mr. President.
Good afternoon. I want to thank not only Governor Pritzker and Speaker Welch for their great work, but the entire General Assembly for working together through this process. It has been a year unlike just about any other, and it has produced a budget unlike any other in recent history. We've paid our bills, saw our credit rating improve, are investing in our priorities, and have the ability to send money back to taxpayers. Heading into this process, Senate Democrats had a set of guiding priorities. As the governor said, a responsible, balanced budget was vital. We've got that. Investment in key priorities like education and human services were also key. We've got that too. And when it came to providing relief, we wanted to get something back to as many taxpayers as possible. And you see that with the child-centric income tax refund that should send money back to more than 90% of Illinois taxpayers. It's $50 per person and $100 per child up to 3 children. Similarly, our caucus came up with the idea of adding tax-free back-to-school shopping, knowing that it's a direct, tangible benefit for households across the state. That, too, is in this budget. And lawmakers in both chambers wanted to see an expansion of the Earned Income Tax Credit, and we accomplished that in this budget, too. This conversation about helping taxpayers began with and builds upon the solid budget Governor Pritzker put forward to provide $1 billion in relief at the gas pump, grocery store, and with property taxes. And that's all in this budget as well. This is a great budget that reflects the needs and priorities of the people of this great state. We've gone through some unique times, and together the last couple of years, it's perhaps fitting that we have a unique budget that is the result of working together like never before. I look forward to voting for it and having it signed into law so that our state can continue to move forward. It's my pleasure to yield the podium to my friend and the House Speaker, Chris Welch.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be standing here with the governor and my friend, the Senate President, Don Harmon. I'm thrilled to stand up here alongside them, my fellow Democratic leaders, announcing that we've reached a deal on a fiscally responsible budget that balances the needs of people across this state. This is what collaborative leadership looks like. This is what cooperation looks like. This is what it looks like when you have people that are willing to work together and compromise. This budget is balanced. It pays all of our bills and will continue putting Illinois on that path of financial surety. This is going to be a budget that we can all be proud about. It also responds to the difficult times many people and families across this state find themselves in now with the rising cost of inflation. This budget will say, Illinoisans, we hear you. In this budget, we're freezing the gas tax, cutting the grocery tax, and providing relief on property taxes. All of this in direct response to inflationary pressures so many hard-working Illinoisans are feeling today. When this budget passes, the governor and the legislature will be saying, Illinoisans, we hear you. This budget invests in critical resources like our healthcare systems and industries that were hardest hit by the pandemic, as well as public safety. When this budget passes, Illinoisans will know that we hear them. We're also permanently expanding the Earned Income Tax Credit and the allocation for the Local Government Distributive Fund, which hasn't happened in almost a decade. I want to thank my Chief Budgeteer, Leader Greg Harris, the House Budget Negotiation Team and our staff, as well as Senate President Don Harmon, Governor Pritzker, and their staffs as well. They have worked incredibly hard to get us to this point today. I'm incredibly proud of this budget and to get it passed and sent to the governor by tomorrow. When has that happened? Illinoisans, we hear you. I'm proud to bring my friend the governor back to the podium to take your questions. Thank you all. Governor?
Yep, thank you.
Governor,
Well done.
what do you say to the critics who are going to see this nearly $2 billion in tax relief in an election year as a ploy by Democrats to try to hold on to your control of state governments? These are temporary measures that will go away after the election year, where there are other needs within state government that still aren't being funded, maybe to the level that people would like to see, like services for government.
The most important thing to recognize is that we have seen prices increasing across the state, across the nation, indeed across the world. There's been inflation. We want to make sure and alleviate some of the pressure and burden. It's an unusual year. There's no doubt about it. It's an unusual year because of that, because there is a Russo-Ukrainian war that has caused gas prices to increase. We've seen the supply chain made more difficult, and as a result of that, there is higher demand than there is supply. So these are pressures that people are feeling at the gas pump, at the grocery checkout line. They're feeling them really everywhere that they go, and that's one of the reasons that we're providing the significant tax relief that we've got in our plan. I'm sorry. On groceries, a full year. On gas, again, 6 months up to January 1, and then we'll revisit and see where we are with regard to oil prices in the world market and how that affects our gas prices. We're hoping so. We're hoping that the Republicans will support this budget. I know that the Speaker can speak to the fact that there were Republican votes yesterday on your revenue bill. So, you know, there's support from Republicans for at least some of this.
Are you backfilling the road fund still with the lust fund?
Yes.
But isn't that kind of a Blagojevich switcheroo fund transfer? I mean, you're talking about responsible budgeting.
No, the lust fund is overfunded, and so it's got twice as much as is necessary in it, and so we are using those funds to help us. And again, this is a temporary measure, and then we'll revisit it next January.
$900 million is what the petroleum people say is already obligated for cleaned up sites. It'll take years to come up with $900 million. You're taking away $140 million.
These are funds that we believe are not necessary in the Lust Fund, but the Lust Fund obviously will continue on even after this temporary tax relief.
Governor, maybe you can address how you arrived at the $1.8 billion number of tax relief. Obviously, you proposed thoughts under $1 billion, the House got a proposal of 1.4. How did you arrive at that number, and can the state afford it? Can maybe offer revenue projections?
Yep, we're very fortunate that revenues have been strong. They've continued to be strong. In fact, in the month of March, I think you saw a COGFA report just a couple of days ago that showed at least their estimates. We're seeing very similar through Gambi and our Department of Revenue. And so we can afford it. And very importantly, the House and the Senate members had really good ideas about how to alleviate some of the burden on people across the state. I mean, I'd call on the House Speaker, in fact, if you don't mind, to talk about one or two of those items, because I think they're very important to include.
Well, I think the direct answer to your question, Brendan, is we arrived at $1.8 billion through compromise. As you mentioned, the Senate was at one number, the governor was at number, we had a different number, but our caucuses had things that were a priority to them. Our caucus, the earned income tax credit, was very important. We moved that from 18% to 20%. There's a cost to that. It was also important, we have a caucus that have a number of former mayors, people who understand local governments and local government budgeting, and increasing the local government distributive fund was very important to them. And so there was a permanent increase to that increases the cost. But we have the structure and the systems in place that are working that allow us to provide this relief.
Republicans said it wasn't the negotiations. Last meeting they said they had was canceled, at least in the Senate. Why aren't they standing here with you if this is a budget for the people? They say, 4 million of their constituents are being left out.
Well, like I said, there is apparently some Republican support for portions of this, and I would say, and by the way, these are the Democratic leaders. These are the leaders who are going to be carrying the bills in each of their respective houses. Mike.
Do you expect the bill changes tonight? Is the timeline you're expecting? And do you have the bill number as well?
We expect the budget will pass tomorrow. We're finalizing the procedural posture, and we'll make sure we share a bill number with you as soon as we have one.
So any votes tonight?
I want to also add, with regard to Republican participation, I want the people that have been in this building to ask themselves, when has a budget been filed as early as it has been filed? We have been very intentional about getting a budget out early, allowing you all and the Republicans to participate. They've printed it out, they've read it, they participated in a budget hearing yesterday. We invited them to a meeting today where they had no questions whatsoever. And in committee yesterday, they supported unanimously the revenue proposals that are being talked about here today. So they haven't been left out of a process. When they choose to participate is totally up to them, but they have certainly been a part of a very accessible and transparent process that has taken place, and we're proud of where we are and where we're going to continue to go.
Is everything that's being produced in terms of response to crime legislation, is that all funded? Is that going to be the $236 million that Customs introduced yesterday? Is that settled? Or is anything going to be left out subject to appropriation?
The amount is settled on, yeah, and it's nearly the entire amount that was suggested in the budget that you saw yesterday morning, yeah.
We see fractals going back and forth between the House and Senate, like different variations kind of the same bill. Is there a cohesive crime package being worked out between the House and Senate as we speak, since we've seen these bills?
I'd like to defer to the leaders of the houses.
We are working together and working together very well, and I expect before we adjourn tomorrow, you'll see a comprehensive package of public safety legislation move through both chambers.
Whatever that is going to be retrofitted.
I concur with that Senate amendment.